Hello, today we're going to learn how to set up a tripod and use the exposure triangle to take a photo. As you can see, I have both a tripod and a camera with me. First, we're going to learn how to set up the tripod and then move on to the camera. First, we'll begin by adjusting the lengths of the legs of the tripod. Unclip the grips. And make sure to unclip the bottommost grips, as it will make potential future adjustment easier. Next, we will extend the legs to the length we want them, and then make sure to reclip the grips so that they'll stay in place. Finally, make sure to open the legs of the tripod and make sure that they are at equal distances. Remember to check if the legs are level by seeing if this bubble is right in the center. If it's in the center, it means that your shot is balanced. If the bubble is not in the center, it means your shot is not balanced. Now, we're going to place a camera on the tripod. This top part of the tripod is called the foot, and is where the camera will be attached to. Push back the orange button to take off the foot. Now that the foot is off the tripod, we can attach it to the bottom of the camera. You'll notice that there's a screw on the foot and also on your camera. There's a little hole right here where the screw will go. Once it's in, you will simply tighten it. But make sure not to tighten it too tight. Now the camera won't wobble when we put on the tripod. And now we can put the camera on the tripod and get started. So now we're going to learn how to take a photo. To take a photo, you need to know at least 3 settings: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. We're going to learn how these things affect our camera and how to adjust them. First, turn on the camera by moving this little switch from off to on. Next, make sure right on the camera, but also on the dial, that it's set to M for manual. There are many other settings on the camera, but we are not focusing on them right now. So make sure if it's on something else to push it back to M for manual. We'll start with the ISO, which is how sensitive your camera will be to light. It's located on the top of your camera near the on button. It will be labeled ISO. The point of ISO is to basically control the brightness or darkness in a photo. Having a low ISO can keep your image from losing detail and light aspects. In contrast, having a high ISO can help when there is a lack of light. Additionally, it can help brighten up your dark photos. However, it's better to set your camera at the lowest ISO possible, because you don't want to create noise. Noise is the little static-like dots that make the photo look grainy and lose quality. So it's better to keep your ISO as low as possible. I'll set mine to 400 for now. Now we'll move on to aperture. The aperture setting is located here on the camera. You'll have to turn the wheel at the top of the camera while holding down this button in order to adjust it. Depth of field is your main plane of visual focus. A small aperture will create a deeper depth of field, and a large aperture will create a shallow depth of field. A deep depth of field means everything in your photo will be in focus. A shallow depth of field is when only a specific subject is in focus and everything else is blurry. Now let's move on to the last setting of the exposure triangle, shutter speed. To adjust the shutter speed, you're going to go to the same little dial that we use for aperture. We don't press any other buttons, just spin the little wheel to adjust the shutter. Shutter speed is how much time your camera allows light to enter the camera. Basically, it's how long your lens will stay open before taking the shot. Having a fast shutter speed will allow you to capture motion in an image, making it appear as if your subject is frozen. In contrast, having a slow shutter speed won't capture motion at all. Anything that is moving in the photo will appear blurry and out of focus. Shutter speed is measured in fractions of a second. For example, 1/8 of a second is a very slow shutter speed and won't capture any motion. If your subject is moving, then they'll be blurry. 1/500th of a second, on the other hand, is a very fast shutter speed and will freeze motion in an image and capture your subject clearly. Today we learned how to set up a tripod and use the exposure triangle to take a photo. Click this card up above to learn how to take a photo in the studio.